Hey, everybody. Welcome to January 2024, January 24th, 2023. There we go. 23, 24, getting me all mixed up. We're only going to get one of these, so let's make it a good one. You're doing mighty fine being here right now watching this Mule and Donkey Clinic, which is going to be taking place for the next hour. Really not a whole lot you could do that would make the day a whole lot better than getting some good training and technique advice so you can get out there, get the trust of your animals, and enjoy what it is to be a mule owner. My name's Dave. This is Steve Edwards, and if it seems like we're settled in mighty fine, it's because we are. We do this every single week on Wednesdays. We talk about mules and donkeys. Folks from all over the world join us and join you as we spend 60 minutes making sure that the world is a better off place with the mule and the donkey. The way it works, very, very simple. If this is your first time joining us, we would love to know, well, everyone, but if this is your first time joining us, here's the instructions. We'd love to know that you're watching. So the first thing we ask is that you share your name, the weather, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like today. Do that in the comment section. You're going to see folks going ahead and starting to put that in there right now on Facebook and YouTube. We want to know that you're here. We want to know that you're watching. It sure would be good just to see your name and say hello. The second thing that we ask is that you share any and every mule or donkey question that you've got. We have a few that are lined up, but this show is guided directly by you. You are the star of this program. You're the one that brings the questions, and we do what we can to make sure that you get the results that you need. So don't worry about asking a dumb question or asking a question you think we may have answered before, or ask a question that maybe we already talked about last week. Doesn't matter. Ask it again, because our perspectives change. You're thinking about something this week that maybe we did talk about it last week, but you weren't thinking about it last week. You didn't have the experience that you do this week. So go ahead and ask it, and we'll get you the answer that you need, hopefully. And then the third thing is that you share this show with friends and family. And if you're on YouTube, it's very simple. You click the share button, click the like button, and then subscribe. That's how you do it on YouTube. The very similar way on Facebook, you click the share button, or you can tag a friend or family member in the comments section. Mr. Steve, how has the week been since, last week?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if everybody remembers, but I had some sciatic problems in my right leg. And boy, it would go numb, and it would just be a booger. And I thought it was one of my hips that had been replaced, and it wasn't. But instead, it's more good news. Yeah, Dave, as you get older, things start falling apart. And I'm sure some of you understand that. I have vertebrae that are like this, and I have actually 3 of them like this. And these 2 here are bulging. Yep, they're leaking outside here. And these two here are almost together. Yeah. So it's been a pain in the butt.
To say the least.
Yeah.
Okay. So my boy, actually 2 of my boys. I've got a 10-year-old, I have a 9-year-old, and I have an almost 6-year-old. And the 9-year-old got one of these hoverboards for Christmas. And so it's just this thing you stand on. It's, about shoulder width apart, and it's got wheels on the side, and you lean forward or you lean backwards, and it'll take you. And so he got one of those, and I thought they were going to be falling all over the place, breaking their necks, on this thing. They move more smoothly than anything else I've ever seen. Both him and my 6-year-old. My 6-year-old was so jealous, he asked if he could get his birthday present early. So we bought him a hoverboard. So here I am thinking, this hoverboard, they're going to break their necks on it. Well, meanwhile, on Saturday, I'm walking, and I was like, oh, my 5-year-old Sandra, Stevie did this thing, and I went to run and do this thing. We've got slick floors, and right out from underneath, came down, landed right on. I'm still, it's not bruised, but I'm pained all up here. And it's I don't have rubber bones like I used to,
No. You don't bend, you crack.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. See, I'm doing a Q&A thing at my church this week. And I am the 40-year-old asking men in their 50s and 60s about what their 40s were like. And I will say, I've heard it said that once you hit your 40s, you do not bend anymore. You only crack. Is that true? And then they'll think I'm smart. So Hey, we are so glad that you're here hanging out with us. Go ahead, put your name, where you're watching from, what the weather's like in the comment section, and we'll get started. I do want to say hello to Miss Faye coming to us from Queensland, Australia. That means right off the bat, we've gone international. And speaking of international, we have some friends who are going to be coming over from Australia to Montana. Steve, why don't you tell us what that's all about?
Oh yeah, that's Dave and Di. I tell you what, that Dave he's got muleosis really bad. And the only way you can cure muleosis is spend more time with mules. And I know a lot of you have got that. But Dave's got it so bad that he's actually started raising mules from a quality jack he bought here in the United States. And he has got some quality mares that he has there in Australia, and he is going to start turning out some nice mules. Pretty soon, David is going to be a national name for somebody who brought mules into the United States, into Australia, the right way. I don't know if y'all know about it, but George Washington was the first one to bring mules into the United States from the east. Now, the Mexicans brought them in from the southwest, but they were not the type of mule that George Washington brought over, which was more farming mules, i.e., the Shire mules and the Belgian mules and this sort of thing. But anyway, Dave and Di are going to be here. It's going to be Di's 60th birthday. And so Dave asked me if I was going to be doing the clinics. I said, no, I'm pretty much retired from clinics. He said, well, we're coming over here to Bishop to Mule Days. And I said, oh, that's too bad. Anyway, because I had enough of that one. Anyway, it's another story. Anyway, so I said, all right, I'm going to do a clinic just for Di. So now, I said, I'll say this, Superior, Montana, first weekend of June, we are going to have another clinic at Ron Den's place. And we had a ball last time. People learned a lot. They got a lot of stuff out of their animals. But anyway, there we are, Dave. That's what's going to happen. Dave and Di are going to be here. And I tell you who else is going to be here. Yeah, it's a show. Guess who? David Pengelly, the coffee man. Yes, sirree.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Folks, I put the link to where you can register. You can get information and you can register. Put the link in the comments section, and got plenty of time for you to plan, so check it out. Superior, Montana, June 2nd through the 4th. It's going to be a lot of fun. 10 spots for participants. Go ahead, click on that link, get more information, and would love to see you in Montana. Neil is watching from Linden, Tennessee, where it's 50 degrees. We do have Dave O'Brien here from East Texas, where it's cold, 41 degrees. Neil says, we just had 18-month-old donkey given to us. How soon can we start working with him? So 18-month-old donkey, how soon can we start working with him?
16 months ago. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Folks, listen, here's what we got to get out of our mind. Everybody wants to see the end result, not the steps to get to the end result. End result, driving. End result, riding. End result, packing. All right? But you've got to build a foundation. And if you can start them when they're babies, like the day they're born, you can actually put a come-along hitch on before they even get their mom's first colostrum. Put a little string around their nose, up over their pole, move their nose a little bit to right and left, and you're done. But it gives them the very beginnings. Do the same thing with that donkey. That donkey right now, David, and I just talked to Dave this morning, and the thing right now, David, what you should be doing, what everybody should be doing, I don't care if he's 16 years old or 16 months old, groundwork, 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 groundwork. That's what you got to be doing. If you can't pick up their feet while you're riding them, if you can't pick up their lead rope and move them around while you're driving them, if you can't pick up the lead rope and ask them to move right and left and back and this nice and soft, why are you leading them? You see what I'm saying, folks? Everybody wants to get ahead. That's the thing about horsemen, especially, Dave. Horsemen, they can bluff a horse through. That's what I used to do. bluff them through, beat them through it. Did we beat them? Yeah. Did we use heavy spurs? Yeah. We made them do it rather than was a partner, a leader, and showing them how to do it and having harmony and leadership with it. And there it is. So what would I be doing? Groundwork. What would I be doing? Picking up feet. And here's the most important part with your babies. And David Scholl, you know this in Australia, but I just want to remind you all, a balanced foot is a straight leg. Tell me one mule you've seen with a straight leg in all these years. And I'm going to tell you they are rare and in between. One of them was mine because I took good care of her all the way through. Okay? But you've got to take this donkey, which a donkey has the worst foot in the world. And that foot ends up being on the mule. And everybody thinks, well, if it's black, it's tough. Well, you don't need a shoe. It doesn't break up. They only think about the general things. They don't think about things like contracted heels, which we're going to be talking about later on because we're going to be all over the world today, huh, Dave?
International, if ever, international today. Good question. Thanks for that, Neil. Appreciate it. Got a question here from Bruce.
David,
no, Neil was the one. David said hello, but Neil was the one who had the one that was given to him. We just had an 18-month-old donkey given to us.
Right,
but Neil knew you were talking to him. He said, hey, this is good stuff. I'm going to write it down here. I'm not going to slow him down. Bruce sent in a message, says, I have now bought several things from you and have a question. I'm doing groundwork with my mule. After asking him to do something and he responds, he watches and tries to do it before I ask. How do I make him wait for me to ask? He does not want me to ask on his nose. He has never made me demand. What would you say to Bruce?
Great. Okay, here, Bruce, listen, folks, this is not the mule's problem. This is Bruce's problem because of his timing. If the mule is already going, like around in a circle, as for instance, if he's already going, it's your timing because of the amount of weight on that rope. Listen to me, y'all. Just the amount of weight from that rope. That's why this mule, he doesn't have to go into a demanding stage. This is why this mule, you don't have to go into a demanding stage. You hear that? Ask, tail, and he barely has to go into tail. Why? Because if you have the weight of that come-along rope, that weight asks the mule's head to go down, and that weight, the mule goes around. What is the mule doing when he's trying to get ahead of you? He wants to hurry up and get release. That's the purpose of the come-along hitch, you all. That's why it's better than the rope halter, because the rope halter constantly is laying on their nose and there's no release. But with the come-along rope, as soon as they start going around, they get release, and they know that. So now, it has to be your timing. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to hold your left hand on the lead rope, okay, on the come-along. Your right hand, and this is just probably one example. I'm not sure exactly how he's getting ahead of you, but this is how it usually happens. I want to go around in a circle clockwise. So I hold on with my left hand about 16, 18 inches from the nose down with my left hand. With my right hand, it's going to go underneath the neck, around behind the tail, and then have him go around a circle. But see, here's the problem. Since you only have your right hand on the rope, then he's going to follow that place trying to get release. It's not that he wants to go to the right, but he wants release. He wants you to let go of his nose. Yes, is that sensitive. That's why left hand holds onto the nose and holds it quietly. And then right hand goes ahead and takes the rope around. When he gets it around to his butt, you're going to hold it right there. You're going to hold the two like this. And then you're going to release your left hand, and your right hand is just going to take up the slack. You should never, ever have to pull on a come-along rope when they're going around in circles, okay? So here it comes time, folks. If they're doing it before you're asking, that's number one, they know what they're doing because you're a good teacher. Then number two, they want release. They want to relax. Ask, tell, demand, but comfortable, uncomfortable. This mule is looking for a comfortable place, and he'd rather not argue with you. He'd rather just do it. So it's going to be your timing for him to do it as you ask.
Very good. Thanks so much for that question, Bruce. Steve, I was going through our YouTube comments, and there was a video where you were just using the rope halter, you were using the come along rope, and one of the watchers said you can get the same results with the nose band higher up on the nose. Making it uncomfortable is okay, causing pain is not, and that's what a low riding nose band does, causes pain. What would you say to folks who have that position on this, because that's not the only person who has said this? What would you say there?
Oh yeah, and it's inevitable. Here's the deal. You want to cause pain? You're already causing pain because you're having to overpull to get the animal to respond. The idea of the knots is to be in the right place so that if you watch the other videos, you will see how that halter is supposed to work. Instead of asking the mule to work, you're making the mule work because you got the rope halter too high. The knots are in the wrong place. But if the knots are down on the nostril, you can see in the video where I demonstrate this, to where this knot puts pressure, this knot comes off the pressure. So it's not pain, it's just discomfort. Okay? Pain is when you use a snaffle bit and you split the tongue because you're thinking you're being a nice person, but you're over pulling. Pain is when you're using that lead rope and you're pulling on them and you're making them stiff in all five muscles. You're sure you're getting them to turn, but they're not doing it soft and easy. You need to see the end result, especially once you do 3, 6, 9, 12. By the time you get to 6, you barely have to touch that rope. But I've never seen anybody that didn't overuse the rope halter, especially when it was adjusted too high. When it's adjusted down correctly, it's smooth and easy and quiet. And I'm sure, Dave, we got a lot of videos showing that.
Yeah, I mean, just video after video after video on the YouTube channel. Matter of fact, there are several playlists talking about installing the come along rope, which we talk about why it fits, why it works that way, why it fits the way it does. Installing rope halters, we talk further about it. And then on top of that, there's a great playlist on YouTube called Establishing Leadership, which is really fundamental ground communication, goes into demonstrating a lot of what Steve just talked about. Hopping back over to our chat, we've got Naomi watching from Eastern Washington, where it's sunny and 40 degrees. Mr. Coffee by David himself, David Pengelly, cool, sunny, and beautiful here in Manchester, Georgia. Karen is watching from Central Virginia. Good evening, beautiful day here. Linda, the mule servant, and Theo, the sweet one-eyed mule in snowy, slushy Central Ohio. They are watching, and it's good to have them here. Hey, we've gone international again. Mr. David Scholl watching from a hot and humid Australia. We were talking about you, David. Those ears must have been ringing. It's good to have you here. Cowboy Ken is watching from cloudy Connecticut, where it's 37 degrees. Cowboy Ken, I saw your message on Facebook. I'm looking at it right now. We'll get you taken care of. Thank you for that. Neil followed up saying no one ever touched him until he was 2 weeks old. So that's an issue.
Well, it's not really an issue. I mean,
Oh,
2 weeks old, that's not so bad. It's when they're 2 years old is when they're
okay.
bad. And majority of it's nice if you can have them from babies and take them right on up. Ask David Scholl. You can see some of the videos that we're going to be having up on line pretty soon, where he's working with babies, and you can see the babies are having a hard time. They're just trying to figure out how to get along, and you can see in a matter of minutes, Dave is using the come along hitch, and they're working perfectly. And I have yet to see that with anybody that just uses an inadequate halter, which is completely misunderstood.
Yeah. Next question here. This one's come in from Elena. She says, I'm really sorry for being stupid, but what did we buy? We aren't sure exactly. And well, it doesn't look like my real donkey, Fernando, and not really a mule. Hubs and I argue over a pony or a hinny. Help, please. So I've got the picture right here. This is what Elena sent in. What did Elena buy, Steve?
Well, she basically just bought a pony mule. The only way you can tell if it's a henny, only way, folks, is to have a DNA test or know the mother or know the father, because it's not the size of the head, it's not the size of the ears, but basically she just has a pony mule. So somebody took a Welsh pony or somebody took a Shetland pony. I don't know how big he is, but they took him and they bred a donkey to a Welsh pony mule or a Shetland mule and end up with that. Okay, now the teachable moment now comes. Number one, a nylon halter. You want to herd a mule? Use a nylon halter. You'll herd them. Why do you? What I mean, herd them? Herd them by, for the rest of their life, they're going to be dealing with the kind of pressure you're putting on them with a halter, and for the rest of their life, they're going to try to find a way. That's why we have so many halter pullers today. Is because people misuse a halter. Like here, there's a nylon halter. All it does is teach them how to brace. Now I want you to notice on that metal, on the cheek piece right there, you can see on the side. Look where it is. It's going up into the cheek, into the bone, and it pokes on the bone. And that's what happens when you use that type of a halter. All it's going to do is teach them how to brace. Notice the back strap goes in behind the jaw. All that's going to do is, if he pulls back really hard, easy to break a jaw. Yeah, you can do that, especially if you got them hard tied and they pull back. Kapow. Yes, you put the rope in behind the jaw, you got a good chance of breaking the jaw or taking it out of place, misadjusting it. But basically, she just has a Welsh pony or a Welsh or Shetland pony mule.
So I've heard you say Welsh pony before. I've heard you say Shetland pony. What are the differences there? I honestly do not know. I know that at the Andrada Ranch, there's like a 13-2 Welsh pony that you ride down there. I don't know what that means. What is a Welsh pony? What is a Shetland pony?
Well, a Shetland pony is actually about knee high, okay, and you can also have a miniature horse as well that can be about knee high. Your Welsh pony mules, they're usually oh, they're usually about waist high or so. They're just a little bit taller. In other words, the ponies used to be bred so that little kids could have, quote, a pony to fool with, and little kids end up getting hurt because the ponies had such a bad disposition. Well, the problem was they took a bad disposition pony and mixed it with a donkey and ended up with a sorry, bad disposition miniature mule. So that's just the way they bred them. And again, the market dictates what kind of animals are out there, because that's what people are going to want to buy.
Very good. Thank you very much. Sabrina is watching from Central Valley, California, where it is 55 degrees and sunny. Gerald is watching from Hardy, cloudy, cool. Let's see, hardly cloudy and cool. Love life no matter what the weather. Love that perspective. We'll take that every day for a January 24, 2023. Thank you, Gerald. Laura is watching from Central Michigan, 42 degrees, expecting 3 to 7 inches of snow overnight. The mule, donkey, and old paint horse all tucked in. Got them taken care of, and they are happy they got a good mama taking care of them. Linda is hanging out and chatting back and forth. Love that, Linda. Karen says, is there anything I can do to keep my mules from chewing on the wooden boards around their pens? Thank you for all your advice.
Yes, get rid of all the wood. You come to my place, all you're going to see is steel. Here's the problem, folks, is it makes them feel good to chew. Their teeth erupt, so they're constantly growing, and they're constantly growing outward, all right? And as they're growing, as they grind their feed, it feels good to them, okay? Not just because they're looking for something to eat, it's just that it feels good to chew. So on the ranches that I've been on over the years, where everything is wood, we've taken diesel oil when we've changed oil in our trucks and tractors, and we poured it on the wood to keep it from chewing. Would they still find a spot? Yes. The best thing to do is forget about the wood, folks. Get rid of the wood, and just just buy yourself some good steel corrals. Otherwise, they're just going to chew them. I have covered them with chicken wire, and they found a way. I have covered them with non-climb wire, and they found a way. It's all steel or nothing. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems. Now, we used to have, which has been outlawed today, we used to have some stuff that we actually put on the wood to preserve it. And you put it on telephone poles today. It's called creosote. And we used to put that on our wood corrals. But when we found out that they'll still find a way to do it, the steel is the best way to do.
All right. Thank you so much for that question. Let's see here. Linda says, that's the cutest little mule I've ever seen. Jim is watching from Western Maryland, 26 degrees and clear. Linda says, a Welsh pony is a cross between a steam engine and a polar bear. Joshua is sending in a message here. He says, hello, Steve. I was just reading somewhere that you are from over in Irwin, the town that hung an elephant. That isn't far from us at all. Small world. In one of your recent videos, you mentioned that you had a video on exactly what to feed, but I haven't found it and wanted to see if you could tell me what to look up to get to it. So first, Joshua, in the email that I'm sending you back, you'll have a link to it, and I'll put a link in the comment section for people watching here. It's Feed Talk. Steve can still hear, folks. He's got supersonic hearing. Our 2 draft mules are about to eat me out of a house and home. We turn them out for about 6 to 8 hours a day, and as you have said, they generally just camp at a round bale, regular grass hay, all day long. The mules will each claim a bale, and then the horses and donkeys all have to share a third bale. They can really go through a round bale. Unlike the horses, the mules don't waste any. They eat it all. In the barn, they are eating about 50 to 75 pounds of hay a day, plus a gallon of mix of sweet feed, oats, and corn. Plus, they each have a salt block. I know I need to change their diet, but I don't know what I need to do exactly. What would you say here to Joshua?
Oh my goodness, Joshua, you are about to have some foundered mules. And founder can be a lot of things, but the biggest problem what we have is overfeeding when it comes to our animals, the donkey and the mule. You'll see these donkeys with big old fat necks hanging over and fat spots along their ribs and across the dock of their tail. And that goes into the mule, okay? They are a grinding machine, these mules are. All equine are. You put a bale of hay in front of them, it's like taking it and throw it into a tree grinder, and they will grind it all the way through, and it'll come out finer on the other end. Yes, they do, okay? You do not feed grain, folks. They don't need the grain. They don't need it, okay? They need it when they're working. Right now, you've got a bunch of Democrat mules. They don't have to work. They just have to eat. If a real Republican mule would want to work for his job. Yes, sirree. That's another story, and I made that one up, right, Dave? Anyway, so here's the deal. Dave's going to probably set you up some places that you can go look. But number one, each mule has to have its own stall. Each mule, its own stall. You come to my place, they're 10 by 20. Each mule gets fed according to what that mule needs. They do not need to be in front of a bale of hay and eating all the time. This is what I want you to do. If you don't test me, you take this next month, and I want you to go down the smorgasbord every time for all your meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I want you to tell me at the end of a month how many pounds you gained. Yeah. Let me tell you, you cannot put them out on a pasture. You cannot put a bale in front of them, okay? You cannot put buckets of grain in front of them unless you've got a lot of work to do. What you're doing is killing your mules little by little. Really easy to get contracted heels with it. Really easy to founder. Really easy to grass founder. Really easy to have salmonella poisoning. Do you want me to keep on? I can keep on going. You know, you are killing your mules, folks, when you overfeed them. Okay? You just stop right now, everything that you're doing, and go build them a 10 by 20 stall with a cover to get in out of the weather and start feeding them according to their job. Okay. Okay, here's an idea. If I'm going to be riding a mule for an average of 2 to 3 hours a day for 5 days, they're going to be getting 6 pounds of roughage in the morning, 6 pounds of roughage in the evening, 12 pounds total for a 1,000-pound plus mule, 1,000 to 1,200 pounds. That's what they're going to be getting. Now, if my mule is starting to lose energy, if my mule is starting to not show direction, in other words, they're not losing weight, then I'm not going to feed them grain. But if they're working and they're slowing up on me, I'm going to give them the grain only to give them the grain that day for the energy. Otherwise, all you're doing is fattening up a beef ready for butcher. And that's what all of you is doing. If you're overfeeding your mule, if you don't have them in a separate stall, each one has its own stall. You do not put several animals in one stall. This way you can watch how much they're drinking, how much they're peeing, how much they are pooping. Folks, it's up to you to healthcare wise take care of these animals and properly feed and water them. They need to each have a salt block. They need a clean, dry place to be. Yeah, I know it's tough. Y'all back there with the snow and this sort of thing. We don't have that here in Arizona. Yeah, that's true. In my 10 by 20 stalls, my 10 foot of my stall is under roof. Open sides because we just don't have, quote, the bad weather, okay, here. At the most, we have a little heat, but that's it. But here's the thing, folks. Each one of your mules, if you want them sound, if you want them to be healthy, you must put them in an individual stall. You must feed them according to their job. If they're pulling a wagon, they got hard work, got the idea? But otherwise, just standing around, all they're going to do is become Democrats and scum off the system. Who did say that?
So, aren't they going to get bored just hanging around? Aren't they going to get bored? Aren't they going to get lethargic? Like, don't I want them out there, like, frolicking and getting exercise?
Frolicking and exercise. Well, it's all well and good to put them out there and this sort of thing. If there's not a ton of feed out there, it's one thing, but they don't need it, folks. They don't need to be out there frolicking and playing with one another. They don't need you. When they're out there with themselves, they are a prey animal. You're a predator animal. Why do they want to do something with a mountain lion when they can be with their other mules and horses and this sort of thing? Now, you think that's cruel? My wife's mule, who died at 28 years old, we got her as a 2-year-old. She spent 26 years in a 10 by 20 stall. Was she taken out? Yeah, almost every day. We either trained on her or we used her to put somebody on and ride. She had probably about 3 or 4 hours of work a day. That's what she had. But she spent 28 years, or 26 years, folks, in a 10 by 20 stall. They don't need to run and frolic. They need you to be the herd leader, need you to take them out. Yeah, even though it's a little cold out there, go out and spend 15 minutes with a come-along hitch and tune them up and tune you up, okay? Or go out and put a surcingle on them and turn them out in a pen. If they're going to stand in your corral, why not stand in a round pen and have a surcingle on them and have them do something? They don't need to be standing around. They don't need to be running and frolicking. You need to be taking care of their health. Clean water, salt, watch their feed, watch their poop. You cannot watch the road apples out there while they're frolicking and having a good time to know which one is sick and which one is well. Yeah, you can't. You really got to watch that feed and water, folks. Really easy to founder these mules.
I'm going to come up with a new workout program called Frolic and Exercise. That's going to be, y'all be on the lookout for that. You're going to see me in my new workout program, Frolic and Exercise. I got to work out a affiliate deal with Steve. Steve will get half of all the proceeds of Frolic and Exercise with Dave Shrine. He had a second question here. One last thing. Any ideas how to keep the mules from jumping the fence? That's why the man got rid of them in the first place. He couldn't keep them in. One is the worst. She will jump the fence to get back into the barn and then goes from stall to stall eating the leftover hay. Steve, I really appreciate you. You are a blessing to so many folks by helping to educate us about the art of keeping mules. What would you say there to Joshua?
Put them in an individual stall, okay? Each one of them an individual stall. Put a hot wire all the way around the top edge. Listen, these mules, my mules, Tom and Katie, they were Shire mules, 17 hands high. Katie would test the wire to see if it was hot, so she could lean over it to get it by the grass. And even though the grass was way down there and she was way up here, but she would test it with her nose hair, and if it sparked a little bit, she knew to stay back. Yeah, they did. Put a hot wire around it, all the way around it, okay? And will that change things? Absolutely. They will start learning that to respect it. Now, here's the other thing, okay? I like to have metal corrals. I use metal corrals all the way around. That's what I do. Now, if you don't have metal corrals, the least desirable way to do this is this. You have to take my orange hobbles that I have. That there's a nut and a chain link holding them together, and take that orange hobble and put it above each leg, and put about 15 inches of chain on them. And when they go to try to jump, the chain would beat on them. But now here's the thing. You're going to have to be close. You can't just put it on them and leave, because you're trying to teach them. And then when they try to jump and not make it with that chain hobble, and they don't do it, walk in there, give them a pet, take them off. So if they learn that if they try to jump, they're going to get tripped. But your best way to do is put your hot wire on there. You can buy them solar, and they work really good, but they need to put it all around the top edge, and you'll find them changing. But make sure each one is in an individual stall.
Awesome. Very good. Next question. This one came in on Facebook from Sarah. Steve, I was directed to ask you for help with my mule. I broke my mule myself, but after slacking for a few months and then adding 2 donkeys, she has now become the pack leader and refuses to do anything I ask her unless it's going back to her donkeys. It's as if she's forgotten everything I taught her. What should I do?
Okay, I was just talking about this, folks. Herd leader, predator, prey animal. Now that she has 2 donkeys, she doesn't want to be around the predator. She wants to be around her donkey buddies. Okay? And I tell you folks all the time, everybody says, get them a pasture buddy. Oh yeah? Now look at the problem she's got. She cannot go anywhere with her mule because that mule wants to spend the time with them donkeys. And especially when they're miniature donkeys, them mules will mother up to them. And here's one of the problems, folks. I've even known of them killing that donkey. Okay. Now, I've known of them even killing calves. You put a mule out in the pasture with a bunch of calves and mothers. I have seen the mule actually mother up to the calf and kill it. Okay. Kill it accidentally, because what's happening is when the mother comes around to try to gather her baby back up, the mule spins and kicks and fights off the mother because she wants to hold that baby calf to herself. Why? I don't know. Okay. But, folks, if you're going to have mules and donkeys and horses together, each one with their individual stalls. Now, here's the next thing. You're going to have to take the come-along rope, and you're going to have to lead them off. And as you lead them off, it's going to be your timing, and this will perfect your timing. The split second the nose thinks about them donkeys, the split second the ear thinks about them donkeys. You see that? You fix it when it's a small problem before it's already turned, split, and took off. Now, are you ever going to be able to teach the mule to stay away from the donkeys? No, because that is natural. It's the way God made these things so that they feel more comfortable with one another rather than with a predator. So it's going to have to be your timing as you're walking off using the come along rope, bump, 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 making those donkeys uncomfortable. Now you can take those donkeys and have 20 acres and put them donkeys on the other end of the 20 acres, and this mule will still want to be over there. If they know that there's another one around, they want to be there. Okay. Now, is it okay to have a mule, a donkey, and a donkey all in different corrals? Yes. Yes. Okay. But remember, the come along hitch is going to teach them that they're going to be made uncomfortable if they want to go back to those donkeys. Okay. And again, folks, I always tell you, you don't need a pasture mate. You don't need it. You don't. I know people who bought a donkey or a Shetland pony or a goat even, and now they can't go anywhere without the goat or that. So it's going to take your timing. Can you teach them not to allow the goat and donkey to be part of their life? No. Can you be on them and be the herd leader, and the split second they think about going back, bump them, make them uncomfortable? Yes. Remember, folks, when you're training, you always train from the nose. If you're going to fix a problem, fix it from the nose. This thing of being buddy sour is part of life. It's called being an equine, but it needs to be you, the rider, to be able to ride that mule through the problem. Now, let me give you another idea. Probably 25 years ago, I had a mule brought to me that had gone through several trainers. And this mule would run off with all kinds of reasons. But I got it to where it started going really steady and this sort of thing. And here's a tractor. Actually, it was a D9 cat. And she didn't want to go nowhere near that. And in the video, you can see I've got her side passing over to that tractor. You can see me getting on and off onto that tractor. And we're talking 25 years ago, you know. And why is that? Because I made her uncomfortable when she wanted to take off running, right, left. And I made her comfortable when she did what I wanted her to do. Herd leadership, folks, it has to be comfortable, uncomfortable. Okay? If they create their own pain, they did it. I didn't do it.
All right, hopping back over to our comments here. Folks, we've got about 15 minutes left. If you've got any questions, go ahead and put them in there. We would love to get those answered for you. Let's see here.
Have we got any of David Scholl with his baby mule and showing the mule moving around and talk about the come along rope?
Did he send? Is that recent?
Yeah, that's all the videos that I sent you.
Oh, is that the one that I had? Well, I've got one from Weaver. Let me look and see if I can find a specific one from David. But let's look at this one here.
Yeah. Okay, folks. So I always ask you all to send me videos of problems or things that are going on. Now you see how this mule that is standing at the corral. And number one, don't put two mules together. Number one. Okay. Now, number two, why is this mule weaving? This mule wants something to do. They're called weavers. He's at the corral. He's at the gate. My Tom and Katie, my Shire mules, used to be at the gate all the time. Come on, let's go to work. I want something to do. Give me a job. I don't want to be here. I'm not a Democrat. I want a job. I want something to do. That's what weavers do. They want to go. You know, if you want a mule to go places and not have to spur them on all the time and worry about them leaving the corrals and stuff, you get this kind of mule, a busy mule that wants something to do, okay? So number one, put the mules in separate pens. Number two, they're always going to weave, always, especially when they want a job, something to do. Now, we had several mules over the years that I was training, and the ones that were really good, forward-moving mules, good in a wagon, good in working cattle, good at climbing mountains, with this kind of a mule. Give me a job, okay? They're called weavers, no big deal. Is it kind of a habit? Yes, okay. Will other mules do it too? Yes, especially when they want something to do.
All right. Next one here. This one, Yolanda has worked real hard on shoeing, and she sent us in some pictures. So right here, she sent in a picture of her mule, and I cannot remember. Do you remember what her mule's name is?
Oh man, I don't.
I cannot remember. So this is the mule right here, but she sent in these pictures. So right here, these are the two front hooves, two front shoes, and then we've got some pictures that she sent in here of those feet, rear and side profile. Steve, what are we looking at here?
Well, right here we're looking at a nice wide heel, not a contracted heel, nice wide heel. The one on the right hand side there, you see there's two different hooves. The one on the right hand side is a right front. The one on the left hand side is the looks like the right rear. And then we go over to the left hand pictures and we've got a side view. Now, notice, folks, how the shoe only has 4 nails. That's all. More nails than that, you start getting separation of the lamina. Notice how this mule, where the nails are, they're not clear back into the quarters. She has spent hundreds of dollars because of poor shoeing techniques. And also, folks, if you're having a hard time getting a shoer, she's in Belgium. No, not in Belgium, Netherlands. She's in Netherlands, and she had a horrible time trying to find anybody to shoe her Spanish mule. Okay, but she has done it. She has studied the bone structure. She was the one that sent us pictures. I think we got it on the internet someplace there of the donkey bone structure and the horse bone structure, so that folks can see the difference in them. She has spent hours and a lot of money to make this mule nice and safe, but most of all, healthy, because she's been shod correctly.
Were you talking about David Scholl's new babies? Not.
Yeah, David Scholl's new babies.
Okay. I was like,
come along work.
I do not remember having stuff from David Pengelly, and so I was thinking David Pengelly, David Scholl. I know where those are. I'll see if I can bring those up. Let's hop back over onto our comments here. Merlin. Hey, Merlin. Okay, so Merlin watched a ton of our shows during the Christmas break and was just commenting on every single one. Merlin, you've got a whole bunch of hearts from me. All of those videos, I put a heart at the end of it. Merlin's just making kind comments, just encouraging comments. And so I just wanted you to know we saw those, Merlin, and I made a heart on each one of them. So you see that there. Merlin's watching from northern Minnesota where it's 18 degrees and cloudy, late again, but made it. Juan Hook McGee is watching. We've got Laura watching. Blake says, what are you using for salt?
For salt, just using a 50-pound block of iodized salt. I don't use mineral block at all. It's a waste of money. The minerals don't always match up with the mule that your territory. So I can also tell you, each one's got a 50-pound block, and each one of the blocks set on a car wheel or a plastic container. One thing about the salt in the car wheel, it will eventually eat that car wheel up over 20 years. But anyway, to keep it up off the ground so that so it doesn't melt into the ground. But make sure you use salt, folks. They got to have salt for the digestive system to work.
All right. Judy is watching, 32 degrees, and we actually had some beautiful sunshine today in Ubly, Michigan. Scott is watching from South Carolina, 54 degrees, and the rain is coming. Linda has a question. Is there a way to train Theo, and just FYI, Theo, for everyone who doesn't know, is her mule, not a significant other, to keep his attention on me, rather than having him turn his attention to the horses riding near him? I know how to use the come along or to do the left, right with the reins to regain his attention. But is there a way to prevent this, to teach him that I will protect him from the horses so that he needn't take his attention off me to start with? He treats me as herd leader when it's just the two of us. But if a horse comes near, he is all about getting right with that horse.
Oh, yeah. Well, folks, a mule is very subservient to a horse. Very subservient. And when a horse comes around, they just want to follow that horse. It's one of the reasons we used horses at Yosemite, because they were a lot more they kept the mules a lot more quieter, especially when we was in so many people on Yosemite. It was very busy. But you are not going to a mule is a prey animal, so they're always looking, always looking. Where's the predator? Is the predator going to get me? They're on the bottom of the food list. But then when they see a horse, oh, look, a buddy, hey, how are you doing? No. So what you have to do, yes, there's no quitting. You'll always have to do it. You'll always have to be in control of what's going on. Now, let me just test you something here, folks. With your car, you just let go of the car and say, okay, take me to shopping. No, you don't do that. You have to start it and you have to drive it. The thing with a mule is you have to take and be aware of all the time of going down the trail. You're not allowed to look to the right. They're not allowed to look to the left. They're not allowed to look up, just like on your car. There are reminders out there on those roads, aren't they? We got what we call rumble strips on the right-hand side and even rumble strips on the other side, because why? People tend to look around and see what's going on. Your mule ends up doing the same thing. When other equine are around, folks, you must 110% correct it. A split second, they flip an ear. Correct it, the split second, they flip a nose, okay? You get to where you feel it in the reins. As soon as they start to look, you feel it how to bump them. Do you ever stop? Nope. It's that way from now on, folks. I don't care how well they are trained. They want to try to be with another equine.
All right, I found the David Scholl videos. Let me see if I can share them here. All right.
Hey, I see David down in that corner. Oh, there he is.
You see it? All right. So here's what he sent in. So I don't know if you can see if I can zoom in on this one. You see that there?
Yeah.
So there's one.
That's right. Notice how David is holding on to the rope. Notice how he's just bump, 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 bump with his right hand. Now the colt decides to pull back around. Notice David has to barely hold on to him. You see that? Notice how he's approaching the shoulder, not the nose. And notice how that come along rope, how it's loose now. But if he hadn't had the come along rope, if he had one of these adjusted rope halters, he wouldn't be able to have the control that he has. Now watch that. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? That's called turn on the forehand, folks. Now look, now he's learning to back up. Notice how he's using the come along rope and using the rail from the ground, folks. He's teaching that mule, and this is a mule baby. This is just a yearling, teaching that mule how to turn on a forehand and back up with the come along rope. Good job, David Scholl. I'm proud of you. Watch this right here. You see that? See how the front end stays in place, the back end goes around? Just taught that little mule how to turn on the forehand. Now watch, when the mule pulls back, David just barely, look, the rope's loose. That's what they're looking for. Do you see how it's loose? Now it's tight. Now he's pulling away from him. Look, watch Dave just bump him. Look at his wrist bumping. Do you see that? Now look how high. Jess wants to see too. Yeah. Okay. Do you see where it is, folks? You see that? And as the mule progresses, you're going to come up the nose. At first, you're going to be lower on the nose. Everybody that condemns that stuff, they don't understand. And right here, look at Dave. Okay, the mule's pulling away from him. Do you see him having a hard time? He's just bumping, rolling his wrist. Even though this mule weighs as much as Dave, probably more than that. You're not that fat, Dave. But notice how Australian cowboys dress, shorts and tennis shoes. Yeah, they all do that, okay? But you notice, look at the wrist bump, bump, bump. You see him? Watch David. Watch. There's no work there. But he's teaching that mule how to side pass, turn on the forehand. Watch this. Back end comes around. See that? Turn on the forehand. Oh, my goodness, Dave. He's killing that mule. What do you think? Killing that poor baby. Oh, watch the baby pull. Baby's pulling. Dave's just bumping. Mule's pulling. See, watch him pull. Watch Dave. Oh, you see that? He barely, did anybody see his hand move?
Yeah.
The hand barely moved. Watch, turn on the forehand. Front end stays in place. Back end goes around. Oh, just taught the mule how to forehand. Wait a minute. The mule already knows how to do it, but Dave is teaching him a cue how to do it. Watch this. Oh, is he teaching that mule to back up? Oh, gosh, Dave, look at just killing that mule. Y'all see how much fun I'm having fun with this?
I was going to say, Steve, you're coming alive in ways I haven't seen.
Yeah, this is true communication. These idiots, and I'm going to say it just like that, folks, because you're used to using a rope halter and creating nothing but pain and pressure for the rest of that horse's life. But watch that baby. Watch Dave. He's barely rolling his hand. Now, Dave came over here and spent some time with me here in the States. I went to Australia and ate kangaroo. And anyway, and I enjoyed it. And look at Dave now. He's got his own babies. He's training them, and he's selling babies. And people are waiting in line for quality mules.
Yeah, that was fun, Steve. I haven't seen you that energized in I think ever. I think that's that. Are you about to burst through the TV screen there, or the computer screen there? That was fun.
I just want you to see, Dave. You see that there was not that much work. Here's a baby. That's the first time he's ever done anything with that baby.
That was the first time. I didn't realize that was the first time.
First time.
That's great.
First time. We're talking less than 15 minutes. Okay? And look what he's got that mule doing already. Turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, side passing, And Dave, he's been around livestock all his life. But see, now that he's kind of learned this come along work and what it can do, folks, if you want to train a mule or a donkey, it has to come from the nose. And notice how you don't have to keep the rope down low. You can move it up high as the mule improves. That's the problem. People only look at one video, David, and say, oh, that's wrong. That's evil. No. Let me show you some of your stuff that you're doing. You talk about evil. You're teaching bad things to them mules and horses that they're going to be paying for the rest of their life because of your stupidity. You're wanting to stay in the same place as your grandfather's, grandmother's Aunt Tilly did 50, 60 years ago. Why not be easier on the mule? Why not be easier on the donkey? Why not try something that works? And right there's the picture. And we need to have, we need to do, Dave? We need a why does my mule do that place? And have the weaver there and explain about the weaver. Talk about why does my mule do that? Here's my baby. He's rearing in the air. Why? And then people can go to that. Of course, we got the why does my mule do that video too.
Yeah. Let's see here. I think that's pretty much everything. Let's wrap it up. Polly's watching from Barnesville, Minnesota, 24 and snowing large flakes. Matthew's watching from Lexington, North Carolina, where it's 49 degrees. David Pengelly, herd leadership. Comfortable, uncomfortable. Now that's a t-shirt, he says. Betta says, please tell me you take training students. Now here's the thing, Betta. In the past, Steve had apprentices, and he would take on apprentices, and they would pay him, and he would come and he would teach them, and they'd stay on the ranch and they'd spend weeks with him. Those days are gone for multiple reasons. One of them is Steve travels a lot now. Another reason is these were in the days pre-internet, pre-video, pre-instructional, online, and on demand. And so what we discovered is that we were able to help more people more regularly and more immediately by switching everything to online. So the bad news is that no longer do we do individual training, but the good news is that everything you would have learned, half of it's available on Steve's YouTube for free, and the other half is available on his site as paid instructional videos. So that's the good news, is you got immediate access to all of it at a fraction of the cost. Most of it free. Laura is watching, says, thanks for the info on weaving. Reba is a weaver. She is definitely wanting to do something as she comes to the gate, and when I get there, and drops her head for the bridle. Blake is watching, says, thanks. Barbara says, hi, I'm late as always, getting ready for a major winter Snowstorm. Barbara, I think that was your photo that you sent in there. Very good. We're going to be
Yeah,
sharing those
that's
photos here.
yeah, Barbara White or Barbara Vansell. We got
Vansell.
yeah, yeah.
Yep, yep. We'll be sharing those here in the next week or so, which reminds me, if you got one of Steve's shirts, you got to be sending in a picture of you wearing the shirt. Make sure to do that. We want to see those. I've only seen Barbara's so far, so we're waiting for the rest of y'all to send them in. Let's see here.
Got a picture of the shirt so people can.
What's that?
Got a picture of the shirt.
Oh yeah, I left it in here. Let me
send them to the website.
There we go, right there. For a mule, every day is different.
That's right.
For a donkey, every day is different. I'll get a link there in the comment section here in a second. Let's hop back over. Thank you. I am taking notes, Steve. A lot of times Theo will notice another horse before I even know he's coming. If people knew how much fun it is to do groundwork, no one would be in such a hurry to jump on for a ride. It's so rewarding to see the mule respond. That's very true. Hey, Steve. Susan here from Colfax, Wisconsin. I just received your kit with the come-along rope. I'm just getting started with my mule. Just wondering if there is a way to soften the come-along rope. With the cold here, it gets real stiff and constantly slipping over her nose, so it's not very effective at this point. Could I possibly just use the rope halter until it warms up so I can take her for walks?
No rope halter. When the rope is warm, then the rope is super soft. But when it is cold, then it will be stiff. Now, here's the thing. If you are bumping it, then you're over bumping it when it's stiff that much. Okay. The idea of waxing the rope is so that it stays formed and stays down. Now, as it gets cold and the rope gets stiffer, you want to make smaller movements. Okay. And as you saw with Dave Scholl there, notice he was using small movements. Try to do that. Usually what happens if it comes off or if it goes too high, is because your timing wasn't there to fix it when it happened. So try to just go and get them to stand still first and straight, then walk off a few steps, stand still and straight, walk off a few steps, stand still and straight.
Awesome. We've got Sherman watching from Norman, Oklahoma. David says, thank you, Steve, for your guidance. Those babies are all under 4 months old. How fun. Linda says, Steve, be weaving. And Roger in Milan, New York, 30 degrees, cloudy. Thanks for the shirt watching. That's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Be sure to get signed up for the Montana Clinic. There are spots available, and it's going to be June 2 through 4. In Superior, Montana. It's going to be just an incredible time. It's going to be a lot of fun. We would love to have you there. And like I said, you can still register. I'll put a link in the comment section here. I accidentally closed my comment window. There we go. Montana info. So get signed up for Montana. If you are interested in shirts, you can go to muleranch.com, and in our categories of more, you can find all of the shirts. Of course, I'm going to give you a direct link where you can go and purchase a shirt. Steve, when do we want to put them on sale for full price? Do we want today to be the last day?
Yep.
Okay. Today's the last day to get the Steve Edwards special. Get your shirt here. If you want the Steve Edwards special, go there, do it today. Tomorrow, it's jumping up to full price, but I don't think you'll have too much of a problem because it's an amazing shirt. So go there, check it out, get yourself your shirt. And Steve, anything else you want to say for today?
That'll probably do it, partner. That'll work.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.